and I'm still the guy who watches the 50 gas stations I go by, mark it in my head which one was $2.12.
You have something for $2.12. Oh my God, you're your father's son. Whew.
And will drive the extra 6 miles to go out of my way.
I will not.
Welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate podcast with the goal to educate, inform, and save their listeners time as they navigate the market and properties in their neighborhoods. Get ready to join real-life siblings and professional real estate advisors, Donna Reed and Eric Seemann, as they discuss how it may be simple, but it ain't always easy.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah. Oh.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Siblings, It Ain't Easy, a real estate and lifestyle podcast that, like the hosts, just a bit unconventional. I'm Eric. She's Donna. We're the Real Siblings, and we are thrilled to have you. If you're a new listener joining us for the first time, thanks. Please do us a favor and listen all the way through to the end. Give us the full effort. We're confident that you'll like what you hear and decide to join our growing community. To our regular listeners, thanks once again for joining us in this new year in the new season, 2026, Season 5. We believe our unique blend of real estate together with lifestyle is informative and enlightening. Our topics vary. Conversations always go in a lot of different directions, but we endeavor to provide our listeners with insights into the industry, better equipping them for their next real estate transaction.
I'm tired already, brother.
Oh, come on.
So is this episode, in my brain I had 76, but I think you said it's 78?
78 with the weird production schedule. And it's 78, number 78. We've done a few bonus episodes, so.
Okay. I wanted it to be 76 since I graduated in 76 and this is my 50th,
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll go with 78. So the truth is that you and I were chatting a little bit, but not a lot because you've been busy through the holiday season with your other job. And we've done a lot about lifestyle. So the last few episodes were shorter episodes, mostly where we talked about hope and joy and peace and love. And kind of reminisced a little bit, talked about how it affected our lives, didn't affect our lives, and how it relates to our everyday work and things like that. So we decided that it really was time to talk a little bit about numbers and real estate.
Real estate again, although not a full market's on the 8 for our regular listeners. That's still coming to episode 80.
Yeah. You and I had a conversation the other day just about how hard the market is, about listings that haven't moved and what's happening and interest rates, the world, the cities that are doing well in the country, the ones that aren't related to sales and stuff like that. And I think I told you that one of my friends who's an agent that has sold about 10,000 homes, he asked me what I was listing a house for, and I told him what it was and where it was. That comes on the market tomorrow, by the way. And that an appraiser had told me that the wood shop out back was probably an $8,000 to $10,000 value. And he said to me, it kind of doesn't matter what an appraiser says these days. And I was blown away by that, Eric, that we have to try our best to come up with a number that makes sense for our sellers that we think will appeal to the buyers, and yet it's a whole new ballgame. What are you experiencing on your end of things?
Well, before I answer that question, let's reiterate. You're now in what year as a real estate?
This is my 21st year.
Okay, 21st year, and I'm in my 11th. So in your 21 years, toughest,
harder than 5, 6, 7, 8, harder than that. Yeah,
okay. And I told you in preparation, I was in a meeting the other day with agents who raised up an agent that have been doing this for 43 years. And as we sat in a mindset kind of configuration, they said, 2025, toughest market they've ever had in 43 years.
43 years.
And she caveated that by saying, that means when we started, the interest rate was 16.5%.
I think Gilroy paid 14% when we bought our first one. How many years? That would have been about that long ago.
Right. And my first house here in San Antonio, 1992, was 13, 14%. And didn't even think about it. I needed a house. You borrowed money, it was 14%, which was
tax deductible.
10% less than what a credit card is, right?
At that point, not only your interest on your home, but credit card debt was tax deductible or credit card interest. So big changes in all of that. So
yes, so that's impacted us. There's the value of the house. So when we were talking that interest rate,
right,
then we went to, but houses were a whole lot less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And property taxes were far less than what they are now. And I'm in a state where there is no state income tax. So everything that the government derives, or the largest chunk, comes from being a property owner and paying property taxes. That's schools, that's cars, that's everything that goes on in the state. So we have a substantial property tax. But to think that it was nearly negligible in 92 when I bought a house compared to what it is now. Average house, $500 a month, property taxes.
Holy moly.
Right. I just shocked you, didn't I?
You did. I was like, that's a lot, Eric.
And that's still a pretty good rate at $6,000 a year.
Does that include you kind of out on the perimeter? So we have San Antonio, you have all the north, south, east, west expansion like we do, and you're a good drive out of the city. And
no, does not affect me because different school district, different county, different. It just is. Now, when we go to sell, since the way the county assesses value now to a property is driven more by the most recent sale, not kind of a legacy, it'll make a big jump.
Yeah.
There's a part of me, the cynic at my age now, our age, this white hair thing. I think politicians like talking about property taxes. They keep it an issue so that every single time the legislation is in session in Texas, they can talk about how they're going to increase the homestead exemption and lower the value of property taxes, while the county, on the other hand, is continually raising it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. As I was driving home, when we first thought we were going to start recording, and I was thinking about this, I sometimes think about the buying and selling of homes very similar to going to a grocery store. You can go into a grocery store and you get there on Wednesday morning and the ad ended on Tuesday night. And so what you're buying, the bag of apples that you're buying, you're like, oh, last night that was on sale. Doesn't matter because today it's not, right?
Correct.
And or from the perspective, because today I heard, now I haven't looked, but I heard that interest rates were at like 5.99 today and maybe 5.75 or something for FHA. So I'm stating that without 100% being positive. But if, like my youngest, who bought his house at 7.1, where does it need to go to make it economically logical for him to refinance? If, in fact, the value of the house hasn't gone up in the last year and a half.
Okay. If the value hasn't gone up, so if the value has gone up for him,
he would have more equity.
He'd have more equity.
Refinancing would make more sense.
Refinancing would make more sense?
Yes.
Okay.
But it hasn't. It hasn't. So.
And taking this back around to where you started, you had a very seasoned, experienced agent tell you it really doesn't matter what the appraiser says. Yet, every single transaction we do that requires financing has an appraiser.
By one person. one individual person's opinion.
who comes in, and when I teach, I talk about the fact, whether I'm teaching at my office or whether I'm teaching at the Realtor Academy and teaching future agents, like, you don't mess with the appraiser. It is, I don't want to say white gloves, but you just don't. You cannot potentially in any way risk being perceived as trying to impact the valuation. There's also the side of it where people have bad days. They left their house. They were angry with their spouse. Things were not going well there. They get in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly their bad day translates to how they view a house when they show up.
Because they're already in a bad mood.
Because they're already in a bad mood?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that happens to all of us, right? You go into it doesn't matter, you're going to a meeting, you're going to meet with a friend, just from a casual standpoint, you're doing something with a group. If it's bad, you carry that for a while. Mm-hmm. And when you're in the appraisal business, you're not going there and just snapping out of it. You're all alone. You don't have someone to cheer you up. You don't have someone to redirect your mind. You're still focusing on that.
Yeah.
And that's the appraisal side of things. And then there's value and price. And I use the example when we were preparing, saying, when I teach, I use the example of what the suggested retail value is of a product. So you just talk grocery store and a coupon that expires. But when you go into a store and you look at, even if it's Nordstrom Rack, right? You've got Nordstrom and you've got Nordstrom Rack.
Right.
A $60 t-shirt is now a $40 t-shirt. Is it really?
I want the $7.
I can go down the road, down 4 doors down to Ross or TJ Maxx or Old Navy and get a t-shirt for $18. So is it really a $40 shirt? There are some people who will pay for a name, they pay for a brand, pay for those sort of things.
Yeah.
But ultimately there's a difference between what we say the value is and what the price is.
Eric, I was thinking about some of the Netflix series I watch. Because, I watch all these international things. So I watched a Korean series where really wealthy people during a downturn in the Korean government, they end up sleeping with all the poor friends. And you see how they interact and how they lose what they had and they go to here. And then I watched Poldark. I feel like I'm advertising for Netflix if you haven't watched it, but that's the late 1700s in Cornwall. I don't know, have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I watched the whole series.
So I found myself as a realtor and a traveler who loves history, looking at the houses, looking at what was normal, looking at those people who were just grateful to have a roof over their head and couldn't even fathom the opulence of others, right? So I sometimes think I have a couple of younger buyers, new ones that I just were introduced to today, so I don't know anything really about them. But there have been people who think your countertop doesn't work if it's Formica or laminate. If it isn't quartz or granite, it's not really a countertop.
It's not really a countertop because
and you had tile. Do you still have the tile? Did you keep tile when your kitchen was redone?
No, we did a solid surface when we redid the kitchen.
Okay. So there's this expectation maybe of where someone came from and what they grew up with. And then the reality of, our entry-level home is this, and entry-level doesn't have what mommy and daddy and grandpa and grandma had, because, whatever that might be. So there's so many factors. Oh, and by the way, you could fix it up. When I posted photos the other day of Dad for his birthday, there was one of him building my kitchen in the house in Lindsey. And that isn't what was there when we moved in, right? It was a transition over time.
And again, part of the notes I put together on this, there is some of that then that you had value in that because Dad did it.
Yeah.
And because it was handmade.
Yeah.
And we know with Dad making it, Dad was probably 95% accurate. Mm-hmm. There are things related to those cabinets, those shelves, which were not professional cabinetry standpoint, but they're handmade. They're solid oak. They were made by somebody you cared about, but is a new buyer coming in going to look at those oak cabinets and go,
yeah,
those are okay.
Right. It's not the pop. I think I was sitting and looking at the hutch that, that Dad made and how he made it to fit over a cold air return in the house, on Main Street. And I'll never get rid of it. Do I know whether any of my kids will care about that? I hope because Dad made it that some grandkid or great grandkid at this rate, one of Dan's kids could be interested in it because their great grandpa made it,
Right.
But who knows?
Right. So taking this back,
yeah.
We as the professionals use a comparative market analysis. That's what you call it in Arizona too, right?
Yeah.
There are some others where it's a broker's opinion of price.
Mm-hmm. BPO, yeah.
So you've got those two things, but when it comes down to it, we put it on the market at a value of $302,500. It is what the buyer who is inclined enough to submit an offer, that becomes the price.
Right.
And that price then, when it closes, impacts future value on the other properties because that's the new market.
Yeah.
When I talk to clients about that, I try to explain to them, it's like, look, your neighbors down the road hated each other when they got their divorce. They just wanted to get out of the house. So they sold at a less than market price, which as soon as it closes, especially from an appraiser standpoint, appraisers can only use sold houses, becomes the new market.
Yeah.
If it's a similar, comparable, without making all those adjustments that have to be made. And there's a whole process there that we use from a market analysis that we do that is influenced by, but not the same as what an appraiser does to determine value on their side. We look at some of those things trying to go, your point a few minutes ago, is it granite? Is it quartz? Or is it a countertop?
Yeah.
A functional countertop is anything you can use. Put your coffee pot on, put your toaster on, chop and prepare vegetables.
Yeah.
And we're going, someone is going to be willing to pay more for this because of these things.
Yeah.
The market we're in right now, not necessarily. They're going, I'm going to get myself a bargain.
Yeah. Now let me tell you, this morning I talked with a realtor in Morristown, New Jersey, and she had to hold her hand up and show me where she was related to New York, and it's kind of a feeder city for New York City,
Right. Not Newark, but close enough that it's not the southern part of the state.
Like 35 minutes into the city. And when Grant first went there, to New York to college, to me, all I remember was coming across a bridge, paying tolls, being in a city, and New Jersey is small, and I thought, it's all city. Well, it's not. And she was talking about relocating. She's in her fourth house, and now they have 3 acres. I'm like, wow. And
in New Jersey?
In New Jersey. And their market is like ours was post-COVID. She wrote an offer the other day. There were 11 offers on the house, and they were the lowest offer. So while we're trying to deal with sellers being realistic because buyers have so many options, back there she's dealing with she's back to where we were like post-COVID, where I was showing 13 offers before we got a house.
Right. And the interesting part of that is that goes against the migration and exodus numbers that we see nationally. It's like people are leaving California, coming to Arizona, coming to Texas. People are leaving New York,
Going to Florida.
New Jersey, that area, going down the East Coast,
Yeah.
heading to Florida.
Yeah.
Those are relocation states. We took in 94,000 people. If we took in 94,000 people who all sold their houses that were way too overpriced in the areas that they should be able to buy in our areas, right?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But here we are.
Exactly. And it's funny because I think I was telling you, because I've told this to everybody lately, that the listings I have 2 coming on this weekend, but I have several who have been owned by people for a long time. One that has a solar lease that's in a state. They're 1990, 1992, 1960, and all of them, someone will want to update. So one of them has a great kitchen. The kitchen was done, but then the dining room changed. And so the valuation of those is very different. And the one new one I have is halfway between Tucson and Phoenix. It's in a town called Coolidge near Casa Grande. Tends to be a place where some of the employees of the prison work, that work in Florence live. New subdivision. And the couple that bought it 2 years ago for $292,000. And they are separating, divorcing. I don't know for sure, but partly it's because his job. He's never home. He drives 300 miles sometimes in a day. So he's renting a tiny little $700 studio down here. And we're putting his house on the market on Sunday for $280,000. So he has very little equity, right?
Right.
And then he's going to have commissions. And he's not in the hottest market in the state. What it does have going for it is it's new, so it has all the things that people want in today's world that think they need new or want new. But it's going to be fascinating to see what happens, how that goes.
Right. And the one that I have coming on next week is a 1955 build that's been
is it downtown?
Greatly updated. It's in much closer to downtown than anything I've had recently.
Okay.
It was built at a time where single car garage was the standard. That was converted a long time ago. At least 50% of this neighborhood converted the garages into living space.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them put in pads, some of them put in carports.
Yeah.
There are things about the layout that they made decisions because of their family that made sense that may or may not be appealing to somebody else. So just saying this is the list price based on reasonable comps, I'm trying to get into it going, okay, it's got 3 bedrooms, but you know what? You made a separate apartment.
Mm.
So the 3 bedrooms are not really contiguous in the space.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a great generational house. And I actually have someone previewing it for that because it's a mom and a daughter. Daughter is at an age where she's still going, but Mom, if I get married, I don't necessarily want you in the house.
Yeah, right.
Having a entirely separate unit that's attached to the same square footage that has its own bathroom, its own bedroom, its own living space, its own
the things
laundry
with casitas or guest houses or next gen homes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really big plus for a small segment of the market. But for others who go, yeah, which child am I putting over here in a separate?
Yeah.
And I don't know how it's going to appraise.
Yeah.
They've owned it since 2001.
Okay.
I moved them the sellers, I moved them into a new place 7 years ago. And they've had tenants in there. Mm-hmm. Now it's time to sell. So having multiple tenants in a single property that you bought in 2001.
Yeah.
Good income, cash flow, but
yeah.
It is definitely trying to get into the mind of what an appraiser's going to see.
Yeah.
What are possible buyers going to see? What is the market telling me the price should be?
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge that all of us have as professionals is give the best advice possible. But when it does come down to it, I have other listings that I've had right now. I've gotten offers that have been legitimate offers on both of them when we walked away.
I remember you saying that for different.
And now you're going, should I have taken it?
Hindsight's great, huh?
Yes. 2020.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or 2015. So
Maybe not.
did we answer our question, or did we just pose a lot more questions that we need to bring in?
I don't know. I think we need to let people know that we are doing our best in a very challenging market, and our goal is still to make everybody happy, right? We want the sellers, if we represent them, to be happy. We want the buyers to be happy. It doesn't matter which side we're on. Everybody needs to be happy, and that's a challenge right now.
It is a challenge right now. Win-win is everybody's happy,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of people who don't want it, who want to be the bigger winner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I did send you that one article that had come out through the Weekly Real Estate News, where they're saying nationwide median price went up 0.1 or 0.7%.
Yeah.
0.7. And typically we are somewhere around 2.9 to 3.2 year over year gain.
Right.
So for a national standpoint, with higher prices, interest rates that have actually dropped,
Yeah.
to look at finishing up 2025 saying 0.7, that's,
Yeah.
let's see, 0.7 to 3.
Yeah.
That's almost an 80%, something like that.
Yeah. No.
Drop in expected value, and it's like, yes, but it still went up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and will it somewhere, I don't know, sometimes I compare it to gasoline where it seems like it goes up, takes forever for it to come down. But it's never going to be 99 cents like when I was a kid, and it's never, it's always.
I was going to say 99 cents. Come on. You started driving, it was less than
that.
that.
Yeah, it probably was. Christ, 60. Yeah, it was cheap. It was cheap. You're right. It was cheap, but it's never going to be that. And now I look at things and everything is relative. So if I go to a different state and that state is less between here and California, I always fill it up right before I cross the border, because of the cost of things. So,
yeah. And that's what, when I was in purchasing in the corporate world years ago, you considered that cost avoidance, not cost reduction, because you as an individual didn't have a direct impact.
Yeah.
And I'm still the guy who watches the 50 gas stations I go by, mark it in my head which one was $2.12.
You have something for $2.12. Oh my God, you're your father's son. Whew.
And we'll drive the extra 6 miles to go out of my way.
I will not.
And that changes how we negotiate on our houses too.
I'm sure it does.
All right.
Funny.
That's it for this one from my standpoint. Yeah. And I do think we owe it to listeners to try to get an appraiser in, your side, my side, just to get an appraiser's input from a guest standpoint so that they can understand a little bit, not just you and I as agents. What does the appraiser do?
My guy retired December 31st. And his house is really close to me. And I'm like, John, am I still going to be able to call you and ask you questions? And
he said, no, I'm retired.
Not with a legitimate answer, but he's the one that I called about that. He knows the land because it's so close. It's only 10 minutes from my house to be able to tell me this is what he thinks it would appraise for, kind of.
All right. And just before you close, my picture behind me is the amazing juniper ash juniper, mountain cedar, commonly referred to, exploding. Apologize for my voice. Apologize for the sniffing and the rubbing. It's the pollen in the air. However, it is January 9th. January 9th of 2025, I was laying in a hospital bed getting ready to be transferred to a primary hospital where I would have infectious disease, cardiology, and pulmonology all able to monitor me at one time. So, shout out. I'm doing much better this year. I'm here. I'm kicking. I ain't in the hospital.
That's a good thing. I always worry about you between being around all the kids when you're doing Santa Claus You're busy, you're not sleeping, you're hot and sweaty in that suit, you're around a bunch of germs, and you're allergic to things happening in your...
All them things.
All that stuff. I'm in my living room, so I'm not having...
You're in your living room.
Right now.
I'm in the...
So, thank you all for joining us. As my brother said, sticking with us all the way to the end. We'll see. We don't ever know if you do that to be honest. We appreciate it, and we don't take it lightly, though you do that with us. We hope that today you learned a little bit about what's happening in the markets and might take a good hard look at where you live and see what's happening in your area and know that you may not be able to compare it to what's happening in somebody else's neighborhood because it isn't necessarily all the same. As a reminder, we are both realtors with Keller Williams. I am in Tucson, Arizona, and Eric's in San Antonio, Texas, and in the Hill Country, which when we talk about where he's at, thus that Snowden Cedar, right? We're happy to help you if you are interested in anything in or around our area. I do Tucson and Southern Arizona, and if not, we do have extensive networks all over the country and some in other places in the world, and we can help you find a realtor who might be able to aid you in your first purchase, your last purchase, your sale, whatever it might be.
Right. Do you go all the way down to Tubuck?
I have not sold in Tubuck. I go there. Oh, on my phone. I go there I go to the art stuff, but I haven't sold down there. That's a good hike for me, and I don't know it well. Anyway, it may be simple, but we already have told you it's not always easy. And so until next time, I'm Donna.
And I'm Eric.
And we are
Real Siblings. Thanks for listening, y'all.
Every time I think about the places I have known, I realize that times have changed. So I'll do what I can to make this house into a home. Yeah, yeah.
I'm Annabelle, and I want to thank you for investing your valuable time in listening to Real Sibling. It Ain't Easy. I hope you found this episode informative and enjoyable. There are several ways you can support this podcast with my Grandpa Eric and Aunt Grandma. Please take the time to like, follow, and subscribe. Additionally, leave them a 5-star rating along with a review on your preferred podcast platform. The final thing I would ask is that you recommend this podcast to a friend, a family member, or an associate. Your engagement is critical to their ongoing success, and they look forward to connecting. Check out the show notes Grandpa put together with their contact information, including emails, phone numbers, and website. And remember, the Real Siblings look forward to hearing from you.